Hi, Ryan. It's so great that you were able to come and spend a little time with me in the amazing public garden. It's a gorgeous day. The place is filled with people. And to talk a little bit about our relationship. We're now in our 52nd year of partnership. It's been a long time. I kind of think back before I was here, but in the very early years, we worried about whether we should spend $500 to take 2 diseased elms out of this place, the garden. And now, fast forward, we're deeply engaged in doing a lot of the work along in collaboration with the city. So it's been a wonderful partnership. It's complicated and good. There's
Fun.
a lot of.
We talk a lot.
We talk a lot. How have you reflected on this partnership over?
Well, one,
these
you
years?
picked the perfect day for this. So we're here when the tulips are in bloom behind us.
Yes.
And everyone enjoys the public garden. So it's the one thing that, when you talk about parks in the city, it's not who owns it. People just see it as a public park. So is it the Friends of the Public Gardens Park? Is it the city's park? Is it a DCR park? People just know it as a public park. So the point that we're able to get together to partner on this, and whether it's help with irrigation or memorial restoration or tree work that's done by the Friends in the Park, or whether it's the mowing of the lawns and the planting of the tulips and all the tropicals, just coming together to make this the best place it can be, and that's because of this partnership. So we would not have America's first botanical garden be as beautiful as it is if we didn't have this partnership in place.
Right. No, it's true. And it's wonderful that 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we signed a formal agreement, and that we had been doing this on a handshake for all those 50 years. So it just said that we needed to formalize what we've already been doing such a good job at. So it'd be good for us to, you and I and others, our staff, to look at that and see, is there a way that we can deepen this work? Because I think over the years we've also, you and I work really well together. We talk all the time, and our staff works together all the time on the ground.
And I think it's important, and that's a model now for our 161 Friends groups. Some may not be as large and some are more eyes and ears for us, but having roles and having identified roles, and as this MOU has with us, we know what the responsibilities are in the month of April in the public garden, in the month of June in Commonwealth Ave Mall, or June on the Common, wherever it is, and know who's supposed to do what. Because as people change and times change, that institutional knowledge is gone. So having something that's codified in one place that we can always go back to and see, to your point, what works and what doesn't work, or what needs to be changed or altered, or were we too aspirational on certain things, and other things we weren't aspirational enough to change it. So
one of your predecessors, Justine Liff, wonderful commissioner who's no longer with us, but I was on the board of the Boston Greenspace Alliance, and she was our speaker one night, and I'll never forget this. I really got what it means to be an advocate with a partner like the Parks Department. She said to us, you have to advocate against us. We cannot advocate against ourselves. And the word against really stuck with me, because we are joined at the hip. We work so closely in terms of all the work that we do, but we also, as advocates, need to oppose things, or need to call out things, or need to send letters. So, it's really an important part of our role, and part of the way we have a partnership.
And the reason we have some of the funds that we have is because of that advocacy work. So to the commissioner's point, the fact that we can't go against ourselves, and we need people in our corner, and we need people at those budget hearings, and we need people to continue to talk and advocate, and that's how you might get a new tool shed in the public garden, or that's how you might be able to repair more lawn panels. I think these parks are so heavily used downtown, and they have so many tourists, but when you look at it from the outside and see there's 330 other parks in neighborhoods where people live, some people talk about, let's divert the resources to some of the neighborhoods, but forget about the downtown parks that aren't just for the people downtown. They're for the regional area, they're for, nationally, people are coming from all over the country. And this is the first impression, whether they walk down the mall, or they're walking in the Common to do the Freedom Trail or the Black Heritage Trail, and then coming into the public garden to go on a swan boat ride, or look at all the artwork, or admire all the plantings. This is the first impression. So it's important that we continue to invest in this, and not just say, well, they have the Friends group behind them, maybe the city can push back and invest a little more here. It's important that we continue to keep these 3 parks, specifically downtown, at the highest level of maintenance that's possible, so we have everyone continue to love these parks, and this is the first impression they have when they come to Boston.
Not only that, but 7 million people a year come to the garden, 7 million people a year come to the Common. They get intense use. They are loved to death. And all the parks are important and wonderful, and we also are involved in Boston Park Advocates, because we don't want to sort of divide and conquer. We say that all green space is important, but to your point, the intensity of use, not just because they're iconic and people come here, the visitor centers across the street, but people do love these places to death. The amount of compaction that the soil gets here just from those 14 million feet with 7 million people, it's pretty intense.
And when it's time to plan events, everybody wants Boston Common.
Right.
Everyone wants their events downtown.
Yeah.
It's right there, accessible by the T. You know, it's in America's first park. You know, it adds that iconicness to your event. So it's challenging, and I know we've been asked many times by the Friends Group to try to find that balance. What is that balance between the sports teams, the Walk for Hungers, the different large-scale events that are down there, and how do we tweak that right balance so we can give the a rest to the grass and the lawn so it doesn't be so compacted. But and that's an ongoing conversations that we're going to continue to have.
Yes, we will.
You know, it's great that everyone wants to be down here, but I think everyone has to realize too that these parks need their rest. They need that break, and or else they will never look as good as they continue to do.
I'm loving that we're doing that master plan where we've been working together over the last 3 years now as a result of Winthrop Square and the fight that ensued. But one of the things we got out of that fight was to have a plan for the Boston Common, both a plan for downtown so we're not fighting one building at a time, and a plan for the Boston Common. So as we do invest the money that's coming from Winthrop Square, $28 million, 23 capital, $5 million maintenance fund, that we have a thoughtful plan for how to invest that money and that we work together. So we've been working really, really closely together, your staff and myself and my staff, on creating a plan for America's first public park and making sure that that can be sustainable into the future.
And for once, there's money behind a plan. Certainly not enough money,
yes,
but there is money. So it's not just shelved, and the hope of this is that it's not just going to be put on a shelf for the next 20 years. It's going to be phased, and there's going to be more investment from the city. There may be some investment from philanthropic dollars that come in to help too. But to have this plan actually go in action and have $23 million on the capital side to start this work is exciting for once, that we're not waiting for another capital cycle from the city. And having that $5 million in a maintenance endowment that will be in perpetuity so we can spend it each year. And we're excited. Next month we're already starting that work and having some new sidewalks poured on Tremont Street and fixing some of the openings. There's a sinkhole area that we're fixing and repairing, and you know, we're able to do that now, and that'll be stuff that we can maybe quadrant out the common each year and fix things. So 10 years from now, we should have made our whole way through to make those small fixes. But it's the small things that make the difference. You know, you look at the overall picture, but you know, when you see trip hazards on the steps and you see pendulums missing from the fencing or something, you know, that now we actually have that maintenance now to do that money, and we are not distracted and taken away from the capital programs, and whether it's repairing the frog pond or reimagining the frog pond or making the area up by the Shaw 54th accessible for the first time so people can actually enjoy that area of the park and not have to worry about how they're going to traverse their way through the park. These are all exciting things. So again, there's not enough money there, and I'm sure we are constantly going to have to bring in more, but at least there's a starting point.
And yet people always like ribbon cuttings, they like groundbreakings, they like new stuff, and then they move away and then somebody else has to maintain it. So, you know, for the Friends, whenever we restore fountains, for instance, we always set up a maintenance endowment so that that fountain can be flowing in perpetuity. The same thing with this maintenance fund. I mean, there's just been a lot of maintenance that hasn't occurred over the years as the park has been loved to death and used. So many events have been using and overusing it. So once we do that, the other aspiration of this plan is to take care of it at the highest level so that we don't have the sinkholes and the drainage that doesn't work and the curbs that are broken. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to not have to have those maintenance fixes.
And internally, we don't have to make the decision whether we're giving a certain money out of our general park improvements fund to the Boston Common or choosing between a field and High Park. There is that separate fund now that we're able to allocate just to the Boston Common, or else we're just saying, can that wait a year or two? You know, we have these two competing interests, and which one do we need to move on first, and which is more important? And now we don't have to make that decision. We can now prioritize our own repairs in the common and figure out which has to happen first, but at least being able to see the work getting done. And I think, to your point, having signage along the way to let people know, even if it's temporary signage, you know, these are the Friends at Work in partnership with the City of Boston, and this is because of the sale of Winthrop Square, and we're working together to make these improvements to your park, to the People's Park of Boston Common.
And you and I and our staff looked at what this common needs, what kind of money we think we can get from this first phase of spending the money that's coming from the maintenance fund, and identified a whole list of things together. And that was really important.
And
to
that
happen.
list has 150 points at least of repairs that need to be made.
Oh yeah.
However,
It's the
working
beginning.
collaborative to figure out what is, needs to be done first, what is phase one, how
Yeah.
can we fix these things? And I think having Tom and Bob on your team work together and getting that done immediately, having that action. We've been waiting so long to spend some of these maintenance dollars and finally get it off the ground.
Yeah.
For this season to see those improvements take place.
These are the things that people do see, to your point. If you're walking along, you just see the holes, you see the warts in the park. I mean, people don't, here they see the beautiful trees and the tulips, and there still are warts in this park as well, in the garden, and we're working on that as well. But yeah, this is, it's day in and day out work. And when I think about equity and accessibility, part of what I think about in terms of us being able to invest $2 million in these parks, I like to think that that frees up some of your money, some of Parks' money, to be able to spend in other neighborhood parks. That there's an equity element to that as well.
And that's our model, access, equity, and excellence in our parks throughout. So making sure that the parks are all accessible, but the kind of park you get to in each neighborhood needs to be the same quality. We tout that we're on the East Coast, we're the first ones to be within a 10-minute walk from someone's front door to their nearest park. But that nearest park, the quality of those parks are not the same.
I know.
So how do we invest more so that everyone has that pleasant experience, no matter if it's a park 2 minutes outside their house or if they're coming downtown to the public garden or to the common? That's what our focus. And excellence, we strive for excellence. We want to be the best. We want people to enjoy the parks. And finally, through this pandemic, we saw how much people appreciate the parks. And I think a lot of the legislators and elected officials saw the value that this park played in their own lives as well as all their constituents' lives. And now we're hoping to see more of an investment. And I think we're starting to see that turn now because everyone valued the parks and saw that was the one place, whether it was respite, relaxation, recreation, whatever they wanted to do. Parks were there. You didn't have to go inside a building. You could hold the fence outside. It was in the open air. And then we've always known the value of parks, but it's great to finally see that start going through and other people realizing it and touting the same message that our agencies have been saying for years.
It's still interesting because people don't get that the grass doesn't just grow and the trees don't just grow. The amount of investment it requires to have healthy turf, healthy soil, healthy trees. We still have to educate people. They get youth recreation or hospitals or schools or crime prevention and fire, but somehow parks has never had that easy advocacy. And I like to think that people didn't grow up on farms. They didn't get that this is how trees grow, this is how grass grows. So we have to fill in the blanks for people. We have to teach people. It's not just the fun capital projects that cost money, it's that day-to-day unsexy maintenance that costs a lot of money. I mean, we're spending, $800,000, almost $830,000 this year just on maintenance of the living landscape, the trees, the turf, and the soils. That's huge.
And we're trying to do more workforce development on our side to get more experience for our staff so they know how to maintain a rain garden or how to know what a bioswale is or what it actually does. And some of our parks designs, we're designing these state-of-the-art parks that our staff in-house can't maintain. So it's that extra dollars that are being spent on contracted services and trying to, how do we get our staff that does a great job, whether it's mowing the lawn, emptying the trash barrels, lining the baseball fields, how do they get more into green jobs and learn more about it? And maybe it is chainsaw training so they can become a tree climber and eventually want to become, an arborist and get that
excited
certification.
about it.
But it's a real challenge in the city trying to have someone have residency and have those specialty certifications. So how do we get them at the ground level, get them excited about this field of work? So, the future of our work is current city residents. That's people in-house that can do this job and do it with pride because they live here.
Get them excited about it.
And you're not bringing in people from other cities and other towns, and we have the talent in-house. They just don't always have the training or the workforce development. So I think that's something now we're going to invest in more and hopefully
really
see a lot more of.
I'm excited that you guys have 4 new positions on the tree division in the budget. That's part of the advocacy, and I know then you have to get the people that want to go and work for the city rather than do a private company that they can make more money on or that they don't have to live in Boston. I mean, those are hurdles that you got to overcome.
And seeing that this investment's a real investment. It's not just like a transferring of staff from one department to another department because it got
it's
shifted.
additive.
This is like the first time we're seeing 4 or 5 FTEs, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but
it's a lot.
It's a big, it's a big thing. And also having money for it is right now contracted services and having prunings happen quicker. Right now, if you try to call for a street tree to be pruned, it's a 16-month wait. So how do we get that wait down? Whether it's a month or 2 weeks or whatever it is, but investing more in that to get that wait list down. So by adding more investment throughout our whole park system, especially on the street trees, it's important to make people feel good about the city's working for them. They're getting their issues answered right away. We live in a world right now where everyone's looking for instant answers, whether it's on social media or by emails. And it's the same with the 311 queues. Everyone's looking for that immediate gratification.
Well, and I like to think back when you talked about advocacy and how it helps you guys. I'd like to think that the advocacy of the Friends and Boston Park advocates helped to get those 4 FTEs into the tree division, because we just have to keep on fighting for it.
And we can, like you said, we can put all these requests in, but we really need the backing of these agencies. And having the Friends has always been great, but having the Boston Park advocates represent,
over 100 organizations.
100 different organizations throughout the city. Come back, be that backbone, and be willing to testify and be willing to write letters. And I think now is the right time when people see the importance of parks. Let's try to make sure we capitalize on that.
Connect the dots here about it. So I am excited about our continuing work together, and I think we're doing great things, and we'll continue to do great things in these parks. It's been a wonderful process and a wonderful relationship, and you've been in the Parks Department for a long time. I've been here, I'm in my 13th year, and these parks do lure you in, and then you just kind of drink the Kool-Aid and you want to stay.
It is. When I started working 16 years ago with the Parks Department, I heard a lot of feedback. Be careful with some of these Friends groups. They're taking away jobs, they're taking away duties.
Right.
It couldn't be further from the truth. Our parks would not be as nice as they are if it wasn't for our partners. There are 161 groups throughout the city, but having groups like the Friends of the Public Garden, we'd never have these parks looking so good with that extra work. So you guys are the model, we are the model, and hopefully when we rework this MOU, that is the model that groups continue to use to the future. So everything's spelled out, easily identifiable, and that's what makes great parks.
And then we live into it. We make it a living document. So thank you, Ryan. Thanks so much.
Thanks for all the work of the Friends.
Yeah, it's been great to work together.